Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most influential FNAF fan games ever created. These are the games that introduced new ideas, inspired countless developers, and helped shape the fan game community into what it is today. Some of these completely changed what people thought a FNAF fan game could be, so let's dive into them. It's pretty normal for me to get suggestions for games to play, and especially so when a new FNAF fan game gets released. However, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never throughout my entire YouTube career has a game been requested as frequently as the one we'll be covering today, and for a good reason. The game we'll be covering today is Forgotten at Fredbear's, the latest and greatest FNAF fan game in this ever-growing genre. Strap in, everybody. This game has a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and you will soon see why it's so hyped up. However, I feel it does have one big downside, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we can start talking about what this game has to offer in terms of an actual gameplay loop, we first have to talk about what happens before the game even begins, that being the opening cutscene.
I've done security work before, Mr. Afton. But this, the hours, the pay, it doesn't add up. Why me? You are reliable, John. That's all I need. A reliable man who does his job. The previous night guards will tell you everything you need to know. Do not concern yourself with the rest.
You always knew how to cover your tracks, didn't you, William? But I know what you've done. I've always known. It's not revenge. It's justice. Justice for her. I won't let her be forgotten.
Alright, so already we've got a lot to unpack. To start, I'm assuming that we'll be playing as the guy William was talking to, John. William is hiring a new guard, but as you can already tell by the sinister look on his face, he clearly has some ulterior motives. Henry is pretty pissed, and should be. William did kill his daughter after all, but I wonder if there's any proof of that murder actually happening. Afterwards, we're booted into an 8-bit minigame with a beautiful art style. Holy shit, this pixel art and animation is phenomenal. In it, we play as Evan, William's son, the crying child. However, instead of Evan getting bullied by the teenagers, Evan witnesses Charlotte being bullied by them instead. They push her outside into the freezing rain and Evan follows after her, only to watch William, his father, approach her and kill her in the alley. Evan runs back inside to Henry, Charlotte's father, and tells him what he saw. During their conversation, we can see the security puppet bolt past them in the direction of the exit door Charlotte got pushed out of, and this minigame comes to a close. So wow, this early in the game and we already saw the death of the first child. Should be kinda crazy out here, I suppose. Anyways, moving on to talking about night one and what this game really has to offer. The first thing I want to point out is how beautiful this game looks, especially when it comes to lighting. The designers of this game absolutely nailed the atmosphere of this game, and trust me, it only gets better the further down the rabbit hole we fall. The controls of this game are really a masterpiece, I can't lie. In my FNAF Rewritten 87 video, I mentioned how much I hated the way the mouse controlled, and how it was probably my biggest issue with the game. I cannot make the same complaint about Forgotten at Fredbear's. This just might be the most satisfying and responsive mouse controls I've ever felt while playing a FNAF game before. You wouldn't think you'd really notice a difference between FNAF games, but when you play as many as I do, it will be something you pick up on really quickly, and I really appreciate the devs of this game for nailing this so perfectly. Anyways, what about the tools at our disposal? Well, this game keeps it pretty simple. In our office, we have 2 entrances, I think. I know the door to our left is an entrance, but I'm also pretty sure that this big blurry thing in front of us is also a door, and this is corroborated by the way the camera map is set up as well. You can walk up to the door on your left, but just doing so will make it seem like it doesn't do anything at all. It will become very apparent what this door does once we start talking about one of the threats this night introduces. Of course, this game also has a camera system, as I already mentioned, and it comes equipped with several speakers to play music over. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Before we start talking about threats, I think we should talk about this night's phone call and why I feel it's so weird. There are actually 2 phone guys, and each of their names are Joe, referring to themselves as Joe A and Joe M. They mention what we'll be doing throughout the night, but who cares about that? They also mentioned the disappearance of Charlotte and how it affected Henry. Apparently, now he's just hiding out in the basement. The Joes said they snuck into the basement to see him, but were caught and thrown onto the day shift, which is why we're on the night shift now. Very, very interesting and intriguing stuff. And if we don't figure out what's down there, I think I might tear my foreskin off. I think I should also make it clear that Henry is under the impression that William is on the night shift, so it appears William hiring us is a type of cover-up for something. Maybe that's why he looked so sinister. So, time to talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. To begin, we'll talk about Spring Bonnie. Another quick thing I want to mention is the character designs these animatronics have. They all look super sleek, but Jesus Christ, are they uncanny and terrifying looking. If I were a kid coming to these restaurants, I don't think I'd ever want to come back. These things are scary as fuck. Anyways, what does Spring Bonnie do? Well, he makes use of that left door I mentioned earlier. He will make his way around the cameras and to said door. He will then literally push it open, and I think you'll enjoy watching what you have to do for yourself next. Oh my God. What the fuck? Yo, that's fucked up. That's so fucked up that you just did that to me. Tell me that's not the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen. They're straight up tossing in some after hours at Cody's level timing shit, and I'm all for it. It really adds to the stress and tension that the actual employee would be feeling during this moment. I think it adds so much to the atmosphere and really makes it feel like you're part of the experience. The next threat this night introduces is the security puppet, easily one of the most uncomfortable looking characters to come out of this game. The way she works is very simple, but that doesn't make her mechanics stop me from blowing my foreskin up like a balloon and making some balloon animals out of it. The puppet will come out of the prize corner and attempt to get to your office. However, instead of having a bullshit music box, she instead is just attracted to the sound of music. Most of the cameras on the map have a music button I mentioned earlier. If you hold down one of these buttons, music will begin to play. However, only so much music can be played on each camera. You'll be able to see the music draining on the button, so you'll have to use it sparingly. If you play the music on a camera adjacent to the camera the puppet is on, the puppet will be dragged into that camera. Continue doing this to pull the puppet away from your office, and make sure you're keeping track of how much boof juice is in your music boxes, and you'll be a-okay. Something you'll notice is that this night ends at 3 a.m. I thought that was really weird, but guess what? We're not even close to being done talking about the first night, as we're thrown into a repair minigame after completing the main part of that night. In this vent area, there are 4 vents, 1 on each side of you. Ignore how we even got to this position. I'm assuming we just climbed through one of the vents possibly. The goal of this minigame is to repair each of the 4 vents by doing a different minigame for each. But before we talk about these minigames, let's talk about the 2 threats we'll have to deal with at the same time. The first and most annoying threat is Balloon Boy, because of fucking course it is. He can come through 3 of the 4 vents. You'll notice one of the vents has a door you can close on it. This vent will be reserved for the other character this night introduces, so Balloon Boy can travel through the other 3. Balloon Bitch will be laughing constantly to inform you as to which vent he is going to try and come through. Once he gets close, simply flash your light at him and he'll dive back into the hellhole he came from. The other threat in this minigame is Mangle. Mangle works in much the same way as Balloon Boy, except she can only attack the vent that has the door. She makes sound cues as well, and when the sound cue she makes is very loud, that's how you know she's about to attack. Quickly turn to her vent and hold the vent closed. Once she stops banging on it, you're free to let go and continue fixing the vents. Speaking of fixing vents, how exactly do you do that? Very simple. Just kidding, each vent has a different minigame. The first vent will have you match several symbols multiple times over. This minigame is obviously super simple, but do keep in mind you will be being attacked by 2 dickheads at the same time. Once you complete this minigame enough, you can move on to the next. The next minigame has you playing Simon Says. Easily the most frustrating of the 4 minigames for one main reason. You cannot drop the maintenance panel until the system has stopped showing you the Simon Says panels. So, if you hear Mangle about to rape your shit, you'll have to wait until the panel very slowly shows you all 5 squares you have to memorize before you can deal with her. You then have to hope to God you remember the pattern as you turn back, because if you fuck up, your repair percentage will drop and you'll be stuck doing this minigame for even longer. The next minigame is Simple Sugar. Every few seconds, a letter will appear. All you have to do is press that letter on your keyboard. Do this enough times, and we can talk about the final minigame. The final minigame blows a bit of dick. You will have 2 bars with 2 small rectangles at random points on them. Clicking and holding a bar will make it start to fill up. If you let go, the bar will slowly decrease. You have to get both bars to be inside of their small rectangles at the same time, and do this several times for the minigame to end. This isn't by any means a difficult minigame, it just makes my dick hurt and my blood pressure rise. But if you can complete all 4 minigames, Night 1 will officially be completed. That's right, that was only Night 1. Hooray! Hooray!
I let you take the night shift. I thought the other guards were too curious. I told you I trusted you to handle things. So go ahead, play a little card. But I know what you did, and I'll be the one who will deal with you. Our creations will be your undoing. I know the truth, and I won't let you live after what you did to my girl. I know what you are capable of. I'm sorry, old friend.
Well, would you look at that? Henry appears to be tampering with the animatronics to make them more hostile to attack William, since obviously Henry is aware that he killed his daughter. However, what Henry doesn't know is that William isn't actually working the night shift like he said he was. William is 3 steps ahead. He knew Henry would do something like this, so he lied to Henry that he'd be taking the night shift and hired us in his place. This is actually some really cool light Yagami type storytelling. I actually really like it. Now, moving on to Night 2, we have the night segment to talk about, and the new threat that this night introduces. The little whiny, annoying bitch himself, Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy's mechanics are honestly pretty simple. You just need to have some decent reaction time. Balloon Boy will move around the cameras at complete random, so tracking him just doesn't even matter at all. At random times, he will enter one of your 2 vents. A very loud, obvious sound cue will play when he does so. A few seconds after you hear the sound cue, he will drop down from any of the 2 vents on your office ceiling. All you have to do is click whichever vent he's in, but you do have to be very fast since you will not have a lot of time to click on him. Once you click him, he'll crawl back into the vent like the disgusting little fucking nematode he is, and then his cycle will repeat. In all honesty, I like Balloon Boy's mechanic. Reaction-based mechanics are always something I'll favor since it's just something I feel I'm better at. However, I do have a complaint with the response of this mechanic. Let's use Spring Bonnie as an example. When you properly hit a timing during Spring Bonnie's attack, there is a visual indicator that you did so. Obviously, that being Spring Bonnie recoiling from you slamming on the door. This gives the user positive reinforcement that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing properly. Visual indicators are always very important things to have in your games for responses to the player's actions to let them know that the actions they are performing are intended. Balloon Boy has 0 visual indication that you are dealing with him. Not only does this make dealing with him feel super unsatisfying every time you do it, but it can also be very confusing when you're first learning the mechanic. Let me give you the most basic example of a visual response indicator for those of you that don't want to do anything fancy. When you hover over the door to your office, your mouse changes to this sprite to indicate that yes, this is something that can be interacted with. Even this is enough of an indicator to let the player know what they should and shouldn't be trying to interact with. When Balloon Boy drops down from your vent, when you hover over the vent, not even this mouse change is present. Even though you are supposed to click on the vent, they give no visual indicator that you're supposed to do so. And when you do click on the vent, nothing seems to happen, as Balloon Boy will finish out his animation before closing the vent behind him and leaving. So when you click it, it literally feels like nothing happened at all. Is this a nitpick? Of course it is. However, I feel it's these little details that matter the most. When small things like UI and visual indicators are done properly, you won't even realize they're done properly at all, but you will realize when they're done poorly. Anyways, enough talking about that. Now it's time to talk about this night's post-night section, wherein instead of repairing the vents, this time around we're repairing Fredbear. This section is miles easier than the last. All we have to do is take Fredbear's head off, which you have to do very slowly or he will give you a rim job, which I'm personally just not a fan of. Afterwards, you'll have to remove his eyes. However, you can only remove them while they're moving, or else he'll see you and
Playing your butt like a sandbox.
After that, get replacement eyes and put them and his head back on. Next, open his chest and do an Among Us wire and electrical task on his back. They even put symbols for all my other brothers who are colorblind, which I really appreciate. Put his chest back on and there's only one thing left to do. Run some diagnostics like we're Dr. House. Spoiler alert, it's not lupus. These are kind of like the salvage mini games from Pizzeria Simulator. You'll have to play some sounds that correlate to each of Fredbear's body parts. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, stop holding the button, or he'll hold your butt and squeeze way too hard for your liking. After you finish that, night 2 is complete, and we move on to night 3, but not before seeing something a little interesting on our screen. Oh shit, we got a crying bitch, dude. Get your ass up. Yeah, that's right, get your ass up. He's home again. Did you hear the door, Evan? You saw her, didn't you? Charlie, bleeding. I didn't mean to see. I just wanted to check up on her. But you did see. You saw what he really is. He wears a smile in the daylight, but you know. You didn't forget. I don't want to remember. Too late. You know what happened to your sister, Evan? She's at Mom's. She's just visiting. No, she's not. Do you really think you're safe here with him? Lie still tonight. Don't speak. For next time, he'll open the door. No. Please don't be him. Oh. Evan, there you are, bud. Wanted to check on you. Your birthday's coming up. Got something really special planned. Yeah, sure. Thanks. You've been quiet lately. Everything okay? Just tired. Alright. Get some rest then. He's lying. You saw it. Charlotte. The alley. His hands. Henry's gone. We don't know why. You can't let him get away with this, Evan. Stop. Stop talking. You remember. And he can't know that. Ooh, shit. Night 3 only introduces one new threat, and I honestly don't feel like they're that much of an issue. But before we talk about that new threat, we need to talk about the insane phone call we got to hear. Joe A mentions that Henry was working on something that would make the animatronics be able to be controlled remotely, and they heard about it right after we noticed that Fredbear was tampered with, which was seen at the end of the post-Night 2 repair section. When Joe A mentions this, Joe M gets incredibly angry, and we hear the following crash out of epic proportions.
Joe! What the hell are you going on about? That's enough! Focus on the job, not on things that don't concern us.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know. With Henry still missing it all, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was he really up to? And there's the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opening up later this year.
Joe, I said that's enough! We're not here to talk about that. Stick to the script. We're here to help him survive, not gossip like old ladies. Or do you want him to end up like the others?
No, of course not. I just...
So, clearly they both are aware of something we're not. And from this point forward, Joe M is going to be a character I'm not a super big fan of in the slightest. But we can talk more about Joe M later. For now, let's talk about the new threat this night introduces. That new threat being Foxy, which turns out it was not Mangle in the vent, it was just Foxy, but he was all mangled. So it was basically fucking Mangle. Foxy is a character I was originally concerned was going to be a big pain in the dick, but again, I actually don't think that it's that big of a deal at all. Foxy is obviously in Pirate's Cove on stage. Every so often, you will be able to see him leaning forward, signifying he's about to sprint to your office like Tyson Gay and dig inside you like Scottie Pippins. When you see him leaning forward like this, all you have to do is close the curtains remotely for a bit until he calms down, then reopen them. You may be wondering, Dexter, why don't we just keep the curtains closed the entire night? That's a very good question, and is actually the question I had when playing this night. But turns out, Foxy does not like it at all when the curtain is closed. And if it happens to be closed for too long, he'll grab the curtains with his butt cheeks and rip the bitches open to force his way to your office. And I think we can all agree that that is a fate we don't want to have happen. What I personally found was the best strategy as of now was to force pull the puppet to Foxy's camera and just camp the cameras constantly. Since there's no power, I don't have to worry about it. And Spring Bonnie and Balloon Boy make sound cues when they attack, so that made it really easy to know when I needed to drop the cameras. Eventually, the music box in Pirate's Cove would run out, and when it did, I'd just drag the puppet to the prize corner and keep him there for the remainder of the night. If you recall, each night only goes until 3 AM, so this actually makes it very, very easy to conserve your music boxes. I just really hope that the puppet doesn't get ass-clenchingly fast by the end of this game. Of course, after we reach 3 AM, we can move on to the post-night section, which has us restocking a supply closet, with Joe M on the phone with us, talking it through. It's during this section where we begin to hear how much of an asshole Joe M really is, as throughout this section, as he's explaining what to do, the tone in his voice is very clearly aggressive.
The closet light, and don't move.
Gotcha.
Not even a single twitch. Got it?
I got it. Damn, bitch.
Let's stock the shelves fast and clean.
It's the goal, asshole. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section. Throughout it, we will get deliveries of boxes outside of the closet door, consisting of things like duct tape, paper towel, tissues, and some other shit as well. Joe M will tell us the very oddly specific places on the shelf where we need to place each item. Which, by the way, I don't know why where we place things is so goddamn important, but clearly to Joe M, it is. Of course, that's not all we have to do, as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie will be trying to enter our insides, like those fucked up little crack addicts who decide diving face first into a cave called Tight Squeeze Death Trap that has a survival rate of 0%, knowing damn well they have a wife and 3 kids back at home. Each character behaves slightly differently, and will require a different form of defense. If you ever see Spring Bonnie at your door, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he runs away. Fredbear is a little different. If you see him at your door, you have to shut the light off to the closet and hold completely still until you hear his big fat feet waddling away. Then you can turn the light back on and continue. After you stock every item and fill the shelves up, Joe M abruptly hangs up on us. No goodbye.
Closet stocked. You're done.
Good. Why is he such a dude? Why is he such a dickhead? I have no idea what got into him. He's acting like we're the ones who brought up Henry's new experiment on the phone. It's not my problem, asshole. Anyways, on to night 4.
I don't care. Take care of Joe A. He's gonna get us all in trouble. Hey, champ. You like the yellow ones or the red ones better? You know, I didn't get a party like this when I was your age. Back then, we didn't have animatronics singing our name.
I don't want them to sing to me.
Come on, you'll love it. All your friends will be here. It's going to be perfect.
Do I have to go?
It's only a few more days.
Evan clearly is not a fan of the restaurant. I wonder why. Considering what he saw, there's not so much to talk about in the night section of night 4. However, there are 2 things I still want to mention. The first being the absence of Joe A. Obviously, in that cutscene, William says to get rid of him, and Joe M on the phone call says we won't be seeing him again. He also continues being an asshole throughout the call as well, and ends the call abruptly. No goodbye, dick. Anyways, the second thing I want to talk about is obviously the threat this night introduces. The man, the myth, the fat bastard himself, Fredbear. In all honesty, I think Fredbear is a pretty disappointing character in this game, as he is quite literally pretty much just Balloon Boy. Fredbear will wander through your cameras and eventually make his way to the 2 big doors in front of you in your office. When he walks through these doors, all you have to do is stare at him and not move. After a few seconds and some hallucinations saying he hurt us, Fredbear will exit the office. Literally just Balloon Boy with less steps, because you don't even have to click on him. But in all honesty, I think this game shines way more in the post-night minigames rather than the actual night segments, which I actually think is pretty cool. So speaking of, what happens during Night 4's post-night minigame? Well, we actually get to hear from Joe A again. He begins his message by saying if we're hearing him now, then that means something terrible happened to him. So basically, somebody murked my homeboy, and I'm gonna figure out who it is. Mark my words, when I do, I'm gonna grab their balls and squeeze them so hard they burst into little pieces, bursting his 2 balls into 38 tiny balls. Don't play with me. In this minigame, we get to speak directly to the puppet. Joe A tells us that we should never repeat to anyone what the puppet is about to say to us. There are some pre-selected questions that we'll have to ask her, and through her answers, we learn that she's Charlotte, the girl William killed in the alley, and the girl that Evan found, Henry's daughter. She mentions William, Henry, and the basement that she says nobody was supposed to enter. However, Henry has been in the basement a lot recently, obviously working on whatever he's doing to kill William. The puppet tells us that she has the key and ends the minigame by giving it to us, telling me that the final minigame we'll play will take place in that basement. However, this minigame isn't just talking to the puppet, as there are 2 major threats we have to deal with while doing so. Obviously, one of them is the puppet herself. While she's having the conversation with us, Joe A told us that she's very unstable. So if she ever starts to quiver in her boots, we'll have to use the music box to calm her down. The second threat during this minigame is Foxy. He will eventually wander into the prize corner with us, attempting to lick up the nape of our neck. He has several positions he can be seen in. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, you'll have to pull the spring lock override switch to reset him. However, resetting him will also cause the puppet to go crazy mode, and you'll have to immediately use the music box to calm her down again. After we get the key from Charlotte, we can move on to Night 5. Speaking of night, there is a metric fuck ton to talk about, so let's waste no time. To start, the night section is just a harder version of Night 4, so we can completely skip over that as it's not interesting at all. However, the post-night minigame is something crazy.
These machines were meant to be the future, William. The start of something new. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A place where children can laugh again. A place where you and I could have built something good.
And just like that, we've entered the basement where the original 4 animatronics are present and ready to eat our bussy. This minigame feels very reminiscent of Night 1's post-night vent minigame, where we have 4 different tasks to complete while being attacked. Each task we have to complete relates to one of the characters. Each has a different task we have to perform, while that task's respective character tries to insert itself inside of us. To start, let's begin with the main office area. There is a notepad on our desk that explains in detail how to deal with each character, but I'll be doing that for you, so we're going to ignore that part. What is important is this code on the bottom line, which gives us a termination code for each animatronic. After completing their task, we'll have to type this code into the computer to disengage them. While in the office, each animatronic has the chance to appear. When they do, just hide under the desk until they go away. Alright, so let's talk about Bonnie's minigame first. In it, there are several wires like it's Among Us. While looking at the panel, every century it feels like a symbol will appear on a small screen. You then have to cut the wire that shares that symbol. Cut the wrong one and Bonnie has a field day with you. Also, Bonnie is fat as shit. Occasionally, Bonnie will appear in the room with you. When he does, all you have to do is stare at him and hold your flashlight in his eyes, blinding him like when I was a kid and would stare at the sun for too long, or when I'd put the flashlight right up to my eyeball and turn it on. After you cut all the wires and disable him on the computer, we can move on to Chica.
But I know what you did. To her. To Charlie. You stood there and you watched the light go out of her eyes, didn't you? My little girl. And you took her from me. I thought if I gave these machines a greater purpose, if I made them strong enough, smart enough, maybe they could end you. Maybe they could give her peace.
Chica's tasks requires you to wait for 300 years for a fuck ton of switches to light up in a specific order, flicking them on after they light up. Meanwhile, Chica will slowly be approaching you through the hallway. When she gets close, all you have to do is close the door until she leaves. Once you've flipped every switch and disabled her on the computer, it's time to move on to Foxy.
Fredbear wasn't enough. Neither were the others upstairs. You slipped through again, like you always do. So I turned to the prototypes. Stronger, smarter, obedient only to me. Never to you.
Foxy's minigame is by far the best in terms of it not taking 6,000 light years to complete. All you have to do is spin this crank in a circle more than I throw my ass in a circle when I play a FNAF game with no power and no music box. While you do this, Foxy will slowly appear out from behind the curtains. All you have to do is occasionally pull them closed and he won't be able to get you. Terminate him on the PC and we can move on to Freddy.
I rewrote their code, set their purpose. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica. The ones buried down here. They were meant for you, William. To tear you apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left.
Freddy makes me want to die, easily being the most annoying character in this entire minigame. All you have to do is hold down a lever while a meter very painstakingly slowly fills up. Occasionally, Freddy will enter the room, and all you have to do is stare at him and not move until he goes away. The only problem with this section of this minigame is that it literally takes like 5 fucking minutes. It's ridiculous. Of course, terminate him on the computer, and the night is over, giving us this final, insane cutscene. It's a pretty long one, but you're not going to want to miss it.
I can't forgive you. Not for Charlie. Not for Elizabeth. Not for any of them. I don't know how, but you seem to destroy everything you touch. I want you to remember her face. Remember what you stole. Because everything I've built since that night has been for her. You will die here, William. And you will suffer.
Thank you for getting rid of them for me. But I can't let you walk out of here with all that, John. Nothing personal.
It's Evan's birthday, and all of the kids and William are standing around us. Henry enters and mentions he needs to talk to William. William, being in the spring Bonnie costume at the time, agrees and they head into the back room. Evan goes to follow them, but Michael drags him to Fredbear to do exactly what you'd think. I'll let the rest of the cutscene speak for itself, because it is truly one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Well, look who finally decided to come home. You're here about Charlie. Of course you are. Why'd you do it? You really don't know. It wasn't just about her. It was about you. What? You had everything. The money, the awards, your name on every goddamn news article. Henry Emily, the genius behind Fredbear's. You were the face of the future. I was just the man behind the curtain, building your dreams. You had a wife who loved you, kids who adored you, and Charlie. God, she looked at you as if you hung the stars. Meanwhile, my wife left. Michael hated me. Evan feared me. And Elizabeth
Elizabeth got too close to one of my creations, and I just let it happen. Because that's what I do, Henry. Everything I build turns to rot. But you kept building a dream. So I tore it down. I took something you'd never get back. Not because I had to, but because I could. I wanted you to wake up like I do, empty.
Come on, give him a big old birthday kiss.
Oh, he's gonna cry again. She was just a child. Evan.
Holy shit. William went to save his child from Fredbear, but Henry remotely causes the spring lock failure while William was out in the open in front of everyone, in front of his 2 children. The spring lock failure happens in public where there are plenty of people to see, and as far as I can tell, it's not even confirmed if the bite happens. This was easily the most shocking cutscene I've ever seen from any FNAF game, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Finally, we see the locked FNAF 4 box. We get the bad ending. There's something we're missing. And don't worry, we're going to get it. Throughout this game, several crumpled notes can be found in various locations. Collecting all 6 of them will allow us to see what's inside of the box. So let's go over each location where you can find them. The first page is on night 1. It'll be directly on your desk. It reads, Evan keeps crying every night. He says he's seeing things moving at Fredbear's when nobody's there. Ever since Charlie went missing, he's been acting weird. The second page is found inside of one of the vents during the post-night 1 minigame. However, it doesn't appear immediately. You will have to wait for a little bit before it'll actually show up, which is a bit weird. Regardless, it reads, It's kind of funny how that balloon boy animatronic looks like me when I was little. I think Dad's trying to mess with me. He said it's a reminder of his favorite troublemaker. The third note can be found on the floor of the back room during the Repair Fredbear minigame. It reads, Henry hasn't shown up in a while. When I asked Dad, he started acting mysterious again. Reminds me of when Mom took Liz and left. Dad won't even talk about it. The fourth page is found during the stockpiling shelves minigame. After stocking the pizza boxes and the paper towel rolls, in the hallway you'll be able to find it on the floor. It reads, The new Freddy's place is supposed to have a Pirate Foxy animatronic. I told Dad that one's gonna be my favorite. The fifth page is found during the Speaking to the Puppet minigame. If you turn around where Foxy stands, you'll be able to see it on the shelf. It reads, My favorite employee, Joe A, got fired today. Kinda sucks. He was pretty cool. Used to sneak me extra tokens when Dad wasn't around. At least we still have the other Joe, but he's been acting weird lately. The final note is found in the basement night. If you go to Chica's room, on a chair next to the wall is where the note lays. It reads, Me and the guys are planning something for Evan's birthday. We're gonna make him see that Fredbear's isn't scary. He needs to toughen up. Through these notes, it's very obvious that they were all written by Michael Afton. And that last note is especially eerie, confirming that the act that ends up getting Evan killed was premeditated. Now granted, clearly from this note we see they weren't trying to harm him, and it's framed in this game that Michael actually really cares about Evan and wants him to be tougher and not so scared of Fredbear's like we know he is. And nothing confirms this more than the true ending. After collecting all 6 notes, we'll be able to open the FNAF 4 box, and we get to hear from Michael himself. now completely alone with no family left.
Evan, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would go that far. I didn't think that you were always scared of that place, and I made it worse. I thought maybe you'd laugh, or at least see it wasn't real. Dad's gone. Right after it happened, his body disappeared, just vanished. Now it's just me. I didn't mean to hurt you, Evan. I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted you to stop crying. To stop being afraid. But I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know how yet, but I will. I'll stay here. I will put you back together, and then I'm gonna go find him. I'm going to go find Dad. Wherever he is. I don't care how long it takes. Evan, just don't leave me too.
So, here we learn what will motivate Michael to do what he did in the first 2 Click Team games. After the spring lock failure, William's body disappeared, implying that, as he always says, he always comes back. Michael sets out on his quest to find his father, and Forgotten at Fredbear's comes to a close. Overall, I think Forgotten at Fredbear's is an insanely good retelling of the origin story of what started all the conflict in Five Nights at Freddy's. It's easy to follow, yet there are several little things you can pick up on early in the game that hint towards what's going to happen, and I love that. I do think that the night section gameplay mechanics are pretty weak, and I do believe that the post-night sections are where this game truly shines. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game doesn't compare to the other newer FNAF fan games? Let me know in the comments below. In my Chica's Party World Rebaked video, I asked you guys what FNAF fan game you'd like to see get a sequel, and my favorite answer was this one by FaZe Rings. They said After Hours at Cody's, and I agree. I would love to get another Cody's game. The first one was so innovative and tried a bunch of fun things. I would love to see another entry in the series. Remakes of the original Click Team FNAF games, something that is definitely pretty popular within the FNAF community. However, how many of them can you name that are actually memorable? FNAF 1 Remake, FNAF 2 Reimagined, Hopeless Pursuit. Sure, those are all titles that are definitely memorable for one reason or another, but the game we're going to be covering today I feel is very memorable. A game I only discovered recently and I really enjoyed. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy, a recreation of the first FNAF game with so many changes, it's hard to tell that's even what it is. So strap in, because we've got a lot to talk about this time around. Join me today as we clap our cheeks into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy. Legacy does not begin in a very typical FNAF fashion. We begin in this red void of smoke, and a disembodied voice of who knows who speaking to us. They ask if they've reached us, and after confirming, they ask us the question, do you know what happens when the past gets infused with agony? After explaining that the answer is that it changes, they ask us one more question. Why did we drown in the lake? They say that we've disturbed its peace. Not knowing what it is, the voice tells us we've brought consequences. So this tells me that this disembodied voice is most likely Old Man Consequences, from referencing the lake, the literally saying consequences, to of course the red background. That's really the only line I can draw as to who this is. But with that, we're booted to the menu screen and we can really begin. But of course, this game is still not done being extra. Upon starting a new game, we get what feels like a teaser trailer for the game, but it's inside of the game. I have no idea, it's really goofy and unique and I like it. But would you believe me if I told you that even after that, this game is still not done being itself. Let's just say that, because it's not. Afterwards, we get an opening cutscene.
Hello, my name is Ethan Caldwell, and tonight we continue our coverage of the developing case surrounding the mysterious disappearance at the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The public had been captivated by the case. The missing security guard, 25 years old Daniel Grace, had last been seen arriving late for work one Monday night. No official causes had been released by officials, but the bizarre circumstances of Grace's disappearance had fostered speculation. Tragic accident, or was something more sinister involving the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza?
Very interesting opening cutscene. Voice acting, not terrible at all. Really setting the scene. I'm enjoying this. What happens next? Oh my god, we're still not done being extra. Okay, that's fine. I can work with this. After watching the cutscene, we begin outside of the building and actually have to walk inside and into the back room to start doing tasks before the night truly begins. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing interesting you can find while walking to this back room. Oh, that fat motherfucker. Jesus. Ugly. So once we get there, we can explain the downloading log task minigame. It's very simple. You have two monitors. One monitor you can use to download the phone call for each night so that you can listen to it later, and you can also read some interesting information. The second monitor is a camera feed that auto-scrolls through the cameras in the building. All you have to do is download the phone call by clicking and holding, and if Bonnie ever comes into the back room with you, just hide under your desk until you hear him leave. Oh my fucking Christ! Oh my god. Hey, Bonnie's on the move again. Why are you looking at me He's giving me that dream angle, bro. And don't give me the dream angle, bro. Once you finish fully downloading the phone call, you'll be thrown into the night. But before we can talk about the night, we first have to talk about the lore information you can read. After the disappearance of Charlie, the Fredbear's Family Diner closes its doors for good. Finally, I'm tired of working in this place. The animatronics smell like rotten eggs. I hope they never open again. So it seems in this universe, we have some name swaps. That's always fun. Who is Charlie? I have no idea. However, it's pretty clear he's dead as fuck. Not very Riz, but okay, you do you, I guess, boo. They say the animatronics smell like eggs. Weird diss, I suppose, but there are probably dead kids in there, so I guess that checks out too. Anyways, onto the actual night section. How does that sound? Night 1 gives us literally the longest phone call on the face of the planet. Seriously, it lasts until 4:30 a.m. Please God kill me. Anyways, fuck what the phone guy has to say. I'm gonna do it for him. My voice is way better, and I know you guys have some odd things to say about my voice. Yes, I read every single comment I get, by the way, guys. Some of you are fucking freaks. Behave. Let's start by talking about your office because it is a little different from FNAF 1. You do still have two doors, so that's nothing new. On the left side, you'll be able to flash the light down the hallway and hold the door closed. Simple sugar. This is what I do to my Willy in bed. I just fucking rock it back and forth. I'm gonna shut up. The right side, however, is where things start to get a bit different. You'll notice there's no door. Well, uh-oh. Where the fuck did it go, huh? Well, joke's on you, there was never a door there in the first place. Why the hell would this company install a door on one side and not the other? I have no fucking idea. Someone clearly did the budget very poorly and they should be ashamed of themselves because this is just embarrassing. To compensate for no door, you can flash your flashlight down the hall and see a grand total of fucking nothing at all because your flashlight is actually ass. But who cares, right? Let's just hope we never have to use it. In front of us is a monitor that surprisingly is not our camera. On it, we have three options: reboot, alarm, and vent. I literally never once used the reboot menu, so I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist. The alarm and vent sections, however, are important, and I will explain them more once they become important. Anyways, who are the big bastards introduced on this night? Well, it's a remake of FNAF 1, so that should be pretty obvious. Night 1 introduces Bonnie and Chica. Don't click off the video! I promise they're interesting and do wildly different things than what they do in the original. I wouldn't be covering this game if they didn't. I promise. Let's start with Bonnie since we've already encountered him in the pre-night minigame. Bonnie can attack both your left and right doors. Fuck. I was hoping we could avoid using the flashlight, but I guess I'll just put my balls in a vice grip then, who cares? Bonnie is a shy little autistic emo femboy and doesn't handle eye contact very well. So if you stare at the camera he's on for too long, he'll crank that Soulja Boy and knock the entire thing offline for the rest of the night. Which, by the way, the phone guy mentions that the repair for said camera will come out of our paycheck if that is to happen. And since we're living in FNAF world where we're making a whopping $100 a week, I highly doubt one of our paychecks would even be enough to pay for that anyways. So let's really try to prevent that from happening, shall we? If Bonnie chooses to attack your left door, you will be able to see him in the hallway when you use your light. From that point, just hold the door closed until you hear him bang on it, and congrats, problem solved, he'll go back to the stage. Bonnie's attack on the right door is a little bit more interesting. When Bonnie gets to the right door, he will literally enter your office, which is just not a fun sight at all and will in fact make your blood pressure spike to 168 in a fraction of a second. Once he's in your office, you'll have to use the alarm system to make the loudest fucking noise of all time. And when you do, he'll run away because it's too loud and overstimulating. And remember, he's a little autistic, he's sensitive to sound, so you're really just bullying an autistic kid. That's not very epic, but do what you gotta do, I guess. Chica, on the other hand, also has two means of attacking you. The first has her go to a certain camera. Now pause for a moment. I want you to take a look at her belly and tell me, what camera do you think she goes to? If you said the bathroom to shit, I'll give you half points because she does travel through the bathroom. Chica's looking me in my eyes. Look at a cupcake. Look at a cupcake, bro. Look at his eyes. He's trying to seduce me and shit. And it's like low-key kind of working. I meant what? But no, the actual answer is the kitchen because she's a whale. If she's in the kitchen, you will have to use the bell button to scare her away. If you're wondering why the sound of a bell that signifies that food is ready would scare a hippo who eats for a living away, the answer is because she gets scared that the food has already been served in the dining room and she's really scared that she may have missed it, and maybe the kids in the dining room have already started eating, but she actually has a rule in her house where nobody is allowed to eat until she's full, except spoiler alert, roly-poly ass chicken bitch is never full, so all of the kids starve and die. Anyways, move. The stupidest thing I've ever written. Anyways, moving on to her second attack where she goes into your vents. Now pause. There's a very easy fat joke I could make here about her not being able to fit in the vent. However, I would never make a fat joke, and this game indirectly makes one for me. Let me explain. Throughout my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, Chica attacked me through the vent no more than 3 times ever. For some reason, she just doesn't really ever do it, which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch. Which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch that she's too scared to try and move through the vents would be correct. If you want to hear my alternative headcanon as to why she doesn't attack through the vents, even though she's programmed to, it's that she'd much rather go to the kitchen where the food might be. Pig-ass fucking robot bitch. Anyways, if she does go through the vent, she'll make a sound cue, and all you have to do is use your monitor to seal the vent until you hear her leave. But hey, not so bad. Pretty easy to understand overall. With that, we complete night 1 and can move on to night 2. But of course, before we can start night 2, we have a pre-night phone call to download. Fuck actually talking about the minigame part, it's literally identical to night 1, and the remainder of the nights are as well. But we can of course talk about the lore we can read during it. Finally got the job here at this new Freddy's location. I can't wait to start tinkering around with those animatronic models. They're supposed to have this new advanced free roam mode? Crazy technology. This message seems to be coming from a possible new hire technician designed to work on programming the characters. In the night 1 phone call, the phone guy mentions that the characters were specifically programmed to walk around at night to stretch their legs. So maybe this guy is the guy that chose to make that decision, even though there's literally no need for it whatsoever. This guy just seems like the type to get way too excited over his interests. He probably has a pony jar, I'm just saying. Night 2 begins with the phone guy talking literally as long as he fucking can. This phone call lasts until 2:50 a.m. So that's just awesome. Anyways, who gets introduced on this night? Well, slow your roll, fucker. There's 2 things about the cameras I want to talk about first. The first is that during this phone call, the phone guy mentions that William disabled the backstage camera. However, when you go to check the backstage camera, you'll see that it works perfectly fine, so I don't know what that guy was talking about. The second thing is that Bonnie destroyed the kitchen camera, so you're stuck listening to be able to tell if Chica is there or not. Hooray! I love life. That's a lie, I don't. Anyways, back to who gets introduced on this night. Well, guess what? It's nobody. Nobody is introduced on this night. I'm fairly certain that night 2 is when Bonnie and Chica are allowed to start using their second form of attack. Bonnie's right hall attack and Chica's vent attack. Maybe. I'm not really sure exactly why nothing new is introduced here, if I'm being honest, but that's what happens. Anyways, let's move on to night 3. Maybe something new will be added there. Night 3, phone guy only talks until 1:53 a.m. So hey, I guess that's progress. Night 3 does actually introduce something new, but before we talk about who it is, I want to mention something the phone guy brings up. He says that William ordered 2 vintage animatronics, a type of animatronic that they don't make anymore, from an old location. Now, I'm not a genius, but it also doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's undoubtedly talking about Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. He says they won't need any repairs, so that means they're working exactly as intended and there shouldn't be any problems with them at all, right? Anyways, night 3 introduces Freddy, and a mechanic that makes me want to stick a push pin in my testicle, pull it out, and slowly squeeze all of the various juices out of it. Freddy stays on stage for a majority of the night. However, whenever he damn well pleases, he will choose to leave with a sound cue. When he does, you will have to find him on the fucking cameras as he teleports to a random one. God damn, guys, I'm getting real sick of this mechanic, you know that? Anyways, luckily, Freddy can't go to literally any camera. He can only teleport to the backstage camera, the arcade camera, the dining hall camera, the restroom camera, or the entrance camera. Basically all the fucking cameras. Once you find which camera Freddy went to, all you have to do is use a camera flash to send him back to the main stage. I know I haven't talked about the camera flash yet, but this is really the only occasion you ever use it. So I thought, why bring it up earlier? Anyways, let's move on. You don't need to hear me explain my thought process for pacing while I script. Let's continue. Actually, now that I say let's continue, I'm noticing that's the only thing night 3 introduces, so we should probably move on to night 4. But hold up! After beating night 3, we actually get a post-night 8-bit minigame. And this is actually the only post-night 8-bit minigame throughout the whole game. In this minigame, we play as William inside the restaurant. Upon trying to leave the room, we're told to get what we need. After what took me probably 5 fucking minutes of trial and error, I finally found out that you need to interact with this very obvious looking present on this table. You might be wondering how it took me 5 minutes to figure that out, and that's because I tried it right away, but nothing happened. The hitboxes in this minigame are some of the most retarded, inconsistent shit I've ever seen. If I had to pick a least favorite moment from this entire game, it would undoubtedly be playing this minigame. Anyways, after opening the gift box, we get a knife and can exit the back room. Outside of it, we find a crying child asking for his parents. We tell him we know where his parents are, and upon following us to the back room, we fucking murder him, smiling the entire time. What if I just don't? Can I just choose to like not do that? Maybe that's a crazy ask. Okay, I have to. Damn! Based. Based. Everybody, it's based. Based and Riz. Based and Riz, bro. Anyways, on to night 4. Night 4 has the phone guy relapse and completely break all of his progress he's made so far as he yaps until fucking 4:06 a.m. Jesus Christ, bro. There cannot be that much to talk about. And in truth, there really isn't. 80% of his phone calls are made up of awkwardly laughing at the unfunniest joke you've ever heard really slowly, and then pretending like the joke he said he didn't even say. Interesting.
Let's just say the camera now has a new perspective on the floor tiles.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Phone guy is a character for sure in this game. Anyways, what's introduced? Night 4 introduces one new threat, that being Foxy. The final threat this game introduces, actually. And if you know my videos, you know I'm fucking lying and we're gonna introduce some more later, but fuck you. Foxy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, having his attack act as sort of a minigame reminiscent of Five Nights at Candy's 3. Very vaguely. Foxy will slowly appear out from behind his curtains, which, in all honesty, these Foxy frames are probably the creepiest frames throughout the entirety of this game, if I'm being honest. They're not like literally scary, but the positions he's in, mixed with how large he is, just makes him feel very uncomfortable. Anyways, how does he work? After he leaves Pirate's Cove, you will be able to hear him running towards either your left door or your right door, and very intense music will start playing like it's a fucking boss fight, which I think is really cool. If he runs towards your left door, all you have to do is close the door until you hear him bang on it. If he runs to the right door, all you have to do is hold your light on his face until he runs away. Where this becomes slightly reminiscent of Candy's 3 is that he will move around and attack multiple times, going back and forth between the two doors as many times as he'd like. Is it hard? No, and in fact, literally every other character pauses while Foxy is attacking you. So that's very RNG considerate. Thank you guys greatly. But yeah, that's about it. Pretty fun character overall. Gets your blood pumping a bit, especially when you hear the music that starts to play alongside it. But anyways, on to night 5. I lied. I have one other thing I want to talk about first. During the night 4 phone call, the phone guy mentions that one of the animatronics they were shipping arrived early and was like nothing that was written down to be shipped. A single endoskeleton with a weird model they've never seen before and very sharp fingers. They say they're leaving it in the safe room for now until they know what to do with it. First of all, I should mention that the safe room is a camera that you have never been able to access since the start of the game. The second thing to mention is that I'm not like an expert, and I'm really bad when it comes to the official FNAF lore, like criminally terrible, and if I'm being honest, I actually don't even like the official FNAF lore, and I haven't since Pizzeria Simulator. But that endoskeleton sounds a lot like the Mimic to me. Maybe I'm just a bit nutty, but I bet I'm not. 6 a.m., bro, let's do it. Easy peasy lemon dick.
This is Henry Emily, the founder and, for better or worse, the sole person responsible for this place's continued existence.
Oh my god, it's the fucking Mimic. So yeah, after beating night 4, we get a scrap minigame with what I can only imagine is the Mimic. And of course, this minigame works exactly how the minigames in Pizzeria Simulator work. Play some weird ass sounds, document results. Watch the fucker across the table move in ways you'd really prefer it doesn't. You know, FNAF shit. Shit we're all used to at this point. But after you get jump scared by the Mimic, we can talk about the pre-night 5 minigame. Dexter, you've already said these don't change. Well, you're right. It really doesn't change from the other 4 we've done. However, on this night, we also get access to the admin panel where we can actually enable the safe room camera's access. Oh yeah, and we also see M2 plans that are redacted. I'm pretty sure being references to the Mimic, and Charlotte being redacted too. Dead kid stuff, who cares? I want to see this camera, bro. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit, I can tell you what. Well, we're gonna talk about those guys a bit later. For now, let's just talk about night 5. Night 5 is pretty boring overall, being a harder version of night 4. That is, until you beat it. That's when something I wasn't expecting to happen at all happened.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you like this, but I'm afraid your time is up. Your curiosity and your need for answers are what first brought you here. And now, they have become your undoing. Because all those who enter this place are doomed to never leave. There are monsters who steal others' voices, monsters who steal others' souls, and then there is you, the one who craved to learn more than he should, and more than he ever will. You will not find the answers you seek here, only your ruin. But while your sacrifice will be forgotten, the impact it will have will not, as the wounds of the past left to fester can finally heal. There will be no more suffering, no more loss, only peace. Peace and a forgotten tomb sealed away, never to be opened again. It all ends tonight. End communication.
Holy shit, we're getting a Golden Freddy boss fight, and it actually has the most badass intense boss music I've ever heard in my fucking life. Golden Freddy isn't very complicated, but he does attack you very quickly, so you'll have to stay on your toes. And of course, he has several attack methods at his disposal, which are all inspired by the attacks of the other characters in typical boss night fight fashion. His first attack has him appear at your right door. All you have to do is hold your light on him until he goes away. His other attack has him pull a Freddy and have you find him on the cameras. However, this one actually proves to be easier than Freddy is, since he actually only appears on 2 cameras, the back room and the entrance. And that's actually it. Dexter, that's it? That's all the final boss of this game has to offer? Really? Hey, shut the fuck up. Look at how much time is left in this video. We're not done yet, bro. Sit the fuck down. About 30 seconds into the night is when you'll notice that all the other characters are still active. What the fuck? This is why Golden Freddy only has 2 attacks, because he's in addition to everything else you've already gotten used to, mixed with the incredibly intense music, the fire all over your screen, the shit in my britches. This serves to be one of the coolest boss fight nights I've ever seen in a FNAF game. It's so fun.
Good morning. I am Ethan Caldwell. We're coming to you with breaking news. A catastrophic fire has reduced a newly reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to ashes in what officials are calling a nightmare scenario. Flames tore through the building just after 7 a.m., with witnesses reporting smoke so thick it blotted out the morning sun. Firefighters arrived, but the inferno had already consumed the entire structure. Authorities confirm all employees escaped unharmed, and thankfully, no customers were inside at the time. However, in a grim twist, investigators have revealed 2 disturbing details. First, the restaurant's infamous animatronic characters, along the centerpiece of the franchise, were completely destroyed in the blaze. And second, even more unsettling, there was an intruder inside when the fire broke out. Security footage recovered from an external camera shows an unidentified individual entering the building in the middle of the night. Their motives remain unknown. What is certain, however, is that they never made it out. Police have not yet released a description, but sources close to the investigation say the manner of death was, unquote, horrific. This tragedy only deepens the dark legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After years of controversy, bizarre incidents, and persistent rumors of hauntings, many are asking, was this arson, an accident, or something far more unnatural and sinister? We'll continue to follow the story shortly for Channel 7 News. Stay tuned.
To our beloved Fazbear family. At Fazbear Entertainment, our top priority has always been delivering safe, wholesome, and unforgettable experiences for families across our establishment. In light of the recent isolated events at one of our locations, we want to take this opportunity to reassure our loyal fans that every possible measure is being taken to ensure such thing will not happen again. While the exact circumstances surrounding the incident remain under internal review, preliminary findings suggest it was caused by absolutely nothing related to prior complaints or unresolved maintenance issues. Our team is working closely with third-party investigators to determine the best path forward. We'd also like to clarify that reports of unusual activity prior to the event, including alleged animatronic malfunctions, unexplained power surges, are entirely unfounded and likely the result of overactive imaginations. Rest assured, all our animatronic performers are completely harmless and incapable of independent movement outside of their pre-programmed routines. Any footage suggesting otherwise is clearly doctored or taken out of context. As we look toward the future, Fazbear Entertainment is excited to announce a temporary pause on operations at the affected location while we conduct routine modernization efforts. We remain fully committed to reopening when the time is right. Thank you for your unwavering trust. Warm regards, Fazbear Entertainment Public Relations Team. Creating smiles, no matter what. Afterwards, we get yet another chat with Old Man Consequences. We obviously died in that fire on night 5, but the old man asks us what we would do if we could go to a timeline where the fire didn't occur, a timeline where William failed. The old man wants to show us what would happen, and show us he does, as next we're set to take on the Golden Ones. But before we do, we get a black gift box. Inside, a note which reads, "Every ripple is a year you can't take back." Night 6 has us take on Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, with all of the other characters disassembled in the back room. This night is easily the most challenging night throughout the entire game. Let's talk about why. Let's start by talking about Spring Bonnie, who has 2 forms of attack. The first has him attack your left door exactly like Bonnie. Same rules apply here, just close the door. However, it's a much better option to just not even let him get to your door in the first place. The way you do so is very easy. Whenever you flash Spring Bonnie on your cameras, he will go back to the stage. So you're obviously going to want to do that a lot. What about his second attack? Well, that would have him use the vents, which, by the way, unlike fat ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, stupid ass, dumb ass Chica, he will actually do very frequently, and he is incredibly fast in them. The moment you hear his vent sound cue, you need to drop whatever you're doing and focus on that goddamn vent, because he will rail you in your ass if you don't. But what about Fredbear? Honestly, he's easier than Spring Bonnie in every way, but he does cause two major annoyances in combination with Spring Bonnie. Fredbear tries to attack your right door, just like Bonnie. When he enters, play the alarm and he'll leave. However, when the alarm is playing, Spring Bonnie actually moves at a faster rate, which is just fucking awful. Also, it's probably a good idea to mention that Fredbear also attacks fast as shit. And actually, both of their aggression increases throughout the night, so near the end, you'll probably have Fredbear in your office all the fucking time. Hooray. But what about the other super annoying thing that Fredbear does? Well, Fredbear doesn't like being flashed and will disable any camera that you do flash with him on it, requiring you to reboot, which takes forever. The problem? Well, it's common for Spring Bonnie and Fredbear to appear on the same camera at the same time. And with how quickly Spring Bonnie moves, it's likely that the muscle memory to flash immediately will be built quickly. So if you're anything like me, you were accidentally flashing Fredbear a lot. And if you're really retarded like me, you'd forget that the camera's being disabled does not mean the night is over, and every single time you accidentally flashed Fredbear, instead of just rebooting, you instead chose to restart the night every single time. I'm not the brightest person, guys, okay? I try my best over here. These streets are hard. Even though these two characters together don't have many ways of killing you, this night is still incredibly stressful, mainly with just how fast these two get in the final hour. However, something about this night, and this entire game in fact, is that I honestly never once felt like RNG was a factor at all. And that's rare. I play FNAF games for a living, so I see a lot of them. And never once have I played a game that really felt like there was no RNG at all. And I honestly think that's one of the coolest things, ever. But if you can keep your composure long enough, you'll complete the night and get to watch this super awesome tape.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike where fantasy and fun come to life. Our establishment is a place where fun and safety go hand in hand. Part of what makes our family-friendly experience so special are the animatronics that entertain our guests. To ensure they continue to operate smoothly and safely, proper cleaning and maintenance is essential. And that's where you come in, our dear employee. Without you, none of this would be ever possible. In this tape, we will guide you through the process of cleaning our beloved animatronics. It is important to follow these steps carefully and thoroughly to keep our characters in tip-top shape and ensure everyone's safety.
How to clean the joints and the mechanisms.
First of all, you will need a soft brush, a mild cleaning solution, and a dry towel. Avoid using any harsh chemicals as they can damage the animatronic suit. Using said soft brush, carefully clean the joints and mechanical parts while avoiding any visible human remains.
Human remains, human remains, human remains.
And once you finish cleaning, give yourself a pat on the back and a complimentary slice of pizza and climb into the animatronic. This really makes sure that it's ready to entertain our guests again. And thank you so much for being a part of Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any injury, loss of a child, or loss of a head that may occur on our premises. By entering our establishment, you agree that Fazbear Entertainment is not liable for any damages, accidents, or unfortunate incidents that may arise.
While I do find it incredibly unfortunate that I had to look at fat shit Toy Freddy for a majority of this tape, we do see some pretty rizzy stuff, like a redacted dead child probably, and of course the Golden Freddy scene, where he mentions there's a girl inside of him, most likely referring to the fact that there are two souls caught inside of the Golden Freddy suit. Something about this game that I really like is that there's so much additional, non-repetitive things added to it. The random 8-bit minigame, this tape, the salvage minigame, none of it was needed, but I think it's such a nice touch that it was chosen to be added anyways. After the tape, we get one final chat with Old Man Consequences. He asks if we wish to go back, if we're finally satisfied. He mentions how boring the present is and asks if we enjoyed the legacy. Nice name drop, by the way. There's also like so much other bullshit he says in this final cutscene. I'm gonna be real, guys. I just cannot be fucked to try and understand it. There's so much random symbolic shit about like the lake being a mirror and being pulled out when you're choking from drowning in the lake, but the lake is a mirror, so what the fuck? I hate metaphors and I don't want the headache. I'm sure whatever this means is super deep and cool, but I'm not about to spend the next 5 hours writing a fucking MLA format essay trying to decipher it. Not my forte, thank you. But with that, that's all Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy has to offer. Overall, I think this game is probably my favorite reimagining of the original FNAF game that I've ever played. Each character feels super unique, and even the typical boring characters have multiple ways to attack you, which keeps them interesting the whole time. There's so much extra things added throughout the game to keep the loop exciting. The game looks amazing, the story is intriguing and mysterious, which I know a lot of people really like, and I would definitely recommend you go and give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just trying to be another generic FNAF Plus? Let me know in the comments below. In my Night Watch at Freddy's video, I asked you guys what your favorite Avocado Dreams game was and why, and my favorite answer was everyone who unanimously agreed that it was Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. Don't really know what I was expecting there. I should have known that was going to be the answer. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail. Although I'm sure you already knew that considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria. And this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to reroll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose. And, generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. Hold up, guys. I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan. The same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption. Let's talk about everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern, so having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet Steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, Flip Side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, slithering in is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 a.m., Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her. Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that. And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him. If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm Moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And Aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. And Aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple, Percy is always an easy pick, S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him, no radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself, less shocks obviously gives you less shocks as the name would suggest, and Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible! Fuck that, never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 AM, it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 AM rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has Aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch Up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with Melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Ol' Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki, for some reason, doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer, and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam, I'm gonna say Sam, is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisa Sam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. T Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make T Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as T Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left or right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The Ink Monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me, S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and pop time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if it gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time. And Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Crazed Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available, and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on, or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on no VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes no VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at no VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added. So because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade, slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird, and also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these 2. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Maggie is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Maggie has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says
surprise
or
you won't see this one coming,
you will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do It Myself is a penalty that will make Maggie attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimaggie makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Maggie is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS. And I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has one penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has one penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues, I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting, ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food, even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And call tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character, F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before Ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet Ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single Take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds Ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I'd usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go! That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose one of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also, by default, have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you'd usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall, he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties in animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. Something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts. You start the run with 500% power instead of 100%. The nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much, much harder. And because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one, since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops, and Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1 and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines two of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or were you just completely uninterested in a game like this? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 1 remake video, I asked you guys if there was a series you'd like to see me revisit, and my favorite comment was this one by I don't know who this is. They said they want to see me cover Jolly again, and that's probably the funniest thing I've ever heard, because there's no way I will ever touch that game again in a million fucking years. Maybe I'll take a look at Jolly Bees sometime in the future though. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in the comments below. The kings of classic FNAF fan games. What comes to mind when I say that? Maybe Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Wario's, Those Nights at Rachel's, and Treasure Island, to name a few. But for you freaks, you goons, you heathens, there might just be another answer. A game so popular when it came out, for a reason I'm not even sure of myself. Today, I'll be talking about that game. A game so utterly terrible, yet somehow loved. Sit back and relax, because today we're diving into the weird world of Five Nights with Mac tonight. Where do I even begin with this game? Probably by saying that for this video, I played both the first and second games, except not really because I played the remastered versions of them. Was this a good idea? No. These games were pretty bad, and unironically enough, the thing about them that pissed me off the most was the story, but we'll get into that later. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. The game starts as you'd expect an old FNAF game to begin. We pick up a newspaper and accept a job at a restaurant full of animatronics waiting to break our consent and make their willy wag. We enter the restaurant and get the first phone call of the night, and really begin the nightmare that is this game. Not only are these phone calls absolutely horrific from a story standpoint, but they're also somehow even worse from an immersion standpoint. Why? Well, not only are they quite literally impossible to hear because of how fucking loud the rest of the game is.
This is Chrissy. You may remember me. I'm the manager here at this business.
But I guess the developer thought that it'd be really funny not to cut out any of the mistakes by the voice actor.
We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even been opened to the public yet.
That's more funny than anything, but the whole barely being able to hear the phone call part is enough to make me want to throw a baby deer in a river. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't bad enough, the phone guy is also Australian, so that's just torture. Anyways, the phone guy doesn't really say anything of substance in this night, really only explaining the basics, but I get the feeling I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. Let's start by going over the few tools at our disposal. First, we have the cameras. No shit. On the cameras, we have a call button that is located on the camera that contains Mac tonight. This button does what you'd think it does. Makes some noise, animatronics go, "Ew-wee," and then leave. But who's affected by the call button? Let's think long and hard about that one, guys. I don't know. Maybe the fucker who's on the same camera? Jesus Christ, why am I having to explain this basic concept to you? You're like a toddler, a little stupid drooling baby, a little insignificant worm, rodent, vermin, bug. Sorry. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Anyways, the only threat on this night is Mac himself, and he's pretty damn basic. All he does is meander through your cameras, like holy shit, he's so slow. Eventually, he'll wander into your office, which, pause for a minute. This is not an office. I think we're just stationed in the kitchen? Maybe? I quite literally have no idea where we are right now, because this, to the left, is the drive-through window. So we have to be in the kitchen, right? Because if so, that's stupid. But whatever. When Mac gets to your office, all you have to do is use the call button to cause him to go back to his stage. Very basic. What's the downside? I'm glad you asked, because of course there's a downside. If you use the call button too many times, an error will begin. To fix it, all you have to do is go to your control panel and reboot it. God, don't you guys miss playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3? What's that? You don't? That's unsurprising because FNAF 3 makes me want to stick my penis in a blender. But believe it or not, that's not the only attack Mac is capable of. The other attack consists of being a fat ass and going through the drive-thru several times each night. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Mac has the chance to instead wander to the drive-thru window, and when he does, all you have to do is open the control panel and literally just tell him to fuck off, and he listens. Surprising, I know, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain, because he listened, and I appreciate that. But after each night, we get to talk about the post-night cutscenes, which aren't really cutscenes because it's just a black screen with people talking. In this game, I have no idea who we play as, but who is important is the Australian man, so get used to hearing his voice a lot. The Australian man's name is Chris. He's the manager of the McDonald's we work at. And in this cutscene, he walks into the office of... I actually don't know who we could be talking to. It's clearly a higher up because Chris asks him for a raise, but I have no idea who this higher up could be. I'm guessing it's the owner of the building, or who knows, fuck, maybe it's the CEO of McDonald's, I don't know. Anyways, Chris walks into his boss's office and asks about a raise. Why do you ask? Well, this is where we get to talk about the most hilarious sequence of words I've ever heard. Chris says his daughter is sick, with either an infection or a disease. He doesn't know what it is, but in his expert McDonald's manager opinion, it looks fatal.
Well, so far my daughter and I are dealing with very little money, mainly affected by taxes and whatnot. She's currently going through some infection or disease. I don't know what it is, but it seems fatal.
I know this is supposed to be like a super serious moment in the story, but I just thought this sentence was so fucking funny. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. Of course, Chris is all pissy that he doesn't get a raise, which, by the way, grow up. You did what you should have done and asked. You didn't end up getting it. That sucks. But you wanna know what you don't do? Throw a fucking temper tantrum and yell at your boss. Because that's just gonna get you fired, moron. I get your kid is probably dying, but you wanna know what'll make your financial situation a lot better? Not having a kid anymore. The boss explains that the reason Chris can't get a raise is because the company recently spent a lot of money on the new animatronics for the restaurant. They saw how well the Mac Tonight commercials performed on TV, so they thought it'd be a good idea to capitalize and buy the animatronics so that the company would make more money. That makes sense. However, because of this, the restaurant would be closed for a week while they did renovations on the building in preparation. This, overall, is a very valid explanation as to why Chris will not be getting a raise as of now. But instead, after only one fucking day of working at the goddamn restaurant, he's already both demanding a raise and throwing a fit after not getting one. Actual child behavior right here. Moving on to night 2, we get another call from our boy Chris. He's all mopey because his stupid kid is gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares, am I right? He mentions something about the Hamburglar being found in the vents of the building, which, by the way, I would find hilarious if the Hamburglar wasn't also the most infuriating character in this entire game. Speaking of the Hamburglar, let's talk about what this dickhead does. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers. The Hamburglar, the Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburger. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers, and based off of where they found him, is a vent animatronic. Actually, the vent animatronic, as no other characters actually use it directly. We'll talk about that later. The Hamburglar will try to find your vent and crawl inside of it, something I think is very interesting considering this fat motherfucker steals cheeseburgers for a living, something I'm sure his mother is very proud of. Now, here's where I get to talk about how much I hate this piece of shit. He has a few phases before he's fully in your vent. What you're supposed to do is, in the final phase before he enters, blow super hot air using a button in your cameras to scare him away. That in and of itself is super easy. The problem comes from not knowing where he is, which again is super surprising given his profession of choice. Now, in most FNAF games, when you look at the cameras, they slowly pan side to side. They do the same in Mac Tonight's as well. However, in most FNAF games, you can always see the character when they're on the camera, no matter what the position of the camera is. Can you tell where I'm going with this? If not, let me make it very clear for you. When the camera is panned all the way to the right on this vent camera, you literally cannot see the Hamburglar. Why is this a problem? Because the cameras move so goddamn slow that you often won't be able to tell when he's moving because the camera is constantly glued to the right side of the screen. Bro, I wish this camera wouldn't turn 400 billion feet away from that fucking thing. Bro, could you turn the fucking camera towards him so I can see his ass? Luckily for me, I eventually heard a sound cue he makes to make noticing his movements a lot easier. But holy shit, future FNAF game devs, please, for the love of God, don't make this mistake, because this made me want to find a silverback gorilla and have him start digging in me. But regardless, if you can learn the sound cue, the ham bitch boy really shouldn't be too much of an issue, and we can move on to the post-night 2 bullshit cutscene. This cutscene starts with Chris getting on the phone with who I'm assuming to be someone at the hospital that's seeing his daughter, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. In the previous cutscene, Chris told his boss he doesn't have money to even get his kid seen by the doctor, which, by the way, I know in the US you can't legally be denied medical care, but fuck you, it's not disclosed where this game takes place, so eat my balls. Regardless, it is confirmed she has a disease. Still insane that the disease doesn't have a name either, because they've also confirmed that there's nothing they can do and she is in fact going to die. I find it weird that they can both determine that it is fatal when they haven't confirmed what disease it is. Or who knows, maybe Chris is just retarded and can't pronounce words with more than 6 letters in them, as emphasized by him once again getting upset and calling his boss stupid for ordering the new animatronics for his, and I quote, greed of money.
That bastard. Ordering them pieces of junk just for his greed of money?
Moving on to night 3, we're told nothing important by Chris and are introduced to 2 new characters, Grimace and Ronald McDickhead. Let's talk about Grimace first, because Grimace would never hurt a fly. On purpose. Grimace works kind of like a foxy, having multiple stages before attacking you, except I actually just lied because he only has 1 phase before attacking you. When you see him move from his original position, all you need to do is press a button on your camera to make him go back. Are you starting to notice a pattern for this game's mechanics? That's fine. Maybe the main fucking mascot for McDonald's will be better. What does Ronald do? Well, he'll walk around the building, aimlessly probably, attempting to find your office. When he gets there, he'll make a sound cue and stand here. I can see this getting really... Who the fuck is that? What is Ronald McDonald? Oh my fucking ears! Oh my fucking ears! For fuck's sake! What the fuck was that? I think this is like a window to the dining area. Maybe. Again, I have no idea where we are in the building. When he is there... You wanna take a little guess what you have to do to stop him from turning into the gobble monster, lathering your nuts in honey and having a feast? Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to use the exact same call button that you use for Mac, except this time it makes no fucking sense because why the hell would that affect Ronald Donald? That's it. I'm not kidding. We're already at the point where we'll just talk about the next cutscene. For fuck's sake, people actually enjoy this game, and not just because of nostalgia. Whatever. In the night 3 cutscene, Chris goes into his boss's office, tells him that his daughter dying is somehow his fault, and then literally fucking stabs him to death. Slow way the fuck down. Really? That's your reaction to that? Sure, you didn't get the raise, but guess what? Clearly you were able to get her to the hospital because you found out it was fatal. But guess what, dumbass? No amount of money would have made it not fatal. And if it could have made it not fatal, then that just means you waited too long to get to the hospital to get it checked. Now, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't have the money for it. Usually that would make sense, but I'm gonna say fuck you to that thought process in this situation, because if this guy is willing to kill somebody because his daughter is dying, I don't think anything would have stopped him from going into the hospital to attempt to figure out what's going on with her in a timely manner. This story is such a headache. This story is frustrating, and this story makes my dick hurt. If the plot of this game is trying to make me not like Chris, then I take back my criticism, as it's doing a great job at that. But if it's instead trying to make me side with Chris and understand his way of thinking and say, you know what? Sure, killing someone is bad, but at least you could argue he had a good reason to. then this game is doing an absolutely horrendous job at doing so. Night 4 time. What does Night 4 introduce? Well, first, I want to take a brief moment to talk about the phone call and about how little sense this story makes. So, the phone guy is very clearly Chris. You can tell by the ear-grating Australian accent. So, I can't figure out the order of events that take place in this game. As we're playing through the nights, it's clear that the animatronics that were being brought have already arrived. The same animatronics that caused Chris's boss to not give him a raise. Cool. We're told in this phone call that the restaurant still has yet to open, which by the way raises a whole different ordeal of questions, like why the fuck are we even here? But whatever, let's forget about that for a moment. Throughout this phone call, it's very clear that Chris is bothered by the fact that the animatronics are moving from their positions at night, and he yells at us to move them back before we leave work. He says that we can't afford to have these animatronics break before the building is open to the public. So pause. Why the fuck does Chris care? Maybe I'm not even asking this question in the right way. So here, let's just pause and let's go over everything we know real quick and pretend that it all makes sense. Chris asks for a raise, gets denied. His daughter is told she's going to die and there's nothing they can do about it. Chris then kills his boss. This is what we know so far from the post-night cutscenes. We also know that Chris thinks the robots are stupid and have a part to play in his kid dying. So then tell me, why the fuck does he care so much about the state of these animatronics when in his mind they have a large part in why his daughter is either dead or dying? This is the big problem for me with this series. When I stop to think about why what's happening is happening, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And get this, when we start talking about the second game, it's going to make even less sense. No, I'm not joking. We'll talk about the second game in a bit, but this fact is just making me think that the dev wrote the story as he went. But okay, let's stop talking about the phone call now and move on to the threats this night introduces. Birdie and Mayor McCheese. Let's start with Mayor McCheese because it's literally just Mac tonight with a Fortnite skin on. Literally, he does the same thing. Can enter your office and show up at your drive-thru, is both dealt with in the same ways. Worthless character. With that out of the way, we can talk about the much more interesting character, which for a female bird character in a FNAF game, I surprisingly have no sexual tendencies towards it, because this bird is butt ugly. Birdie is the only other character that interacts with your vent, except unlike Big Boy, she doesn't actually enter it, probably because she's the size of Jupiter. All she likes to do is break your shit, so she must have gotten divorced, am I right, fellas? Anyways, her goal is to break your vent heater. A sound cue will play when she does so, and when she does, all you have to do is use your maintenance panel to fix it. And hey, while we're here talking about the maintenance panel, let's talk about how jank it is, and how it adds literally no challenge to this game whatsoever. The maintenance panel in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 adds a challenge because when something is being repaired, you can't use it, leading to a lot of bullshit timings that artificially make the game more difficult than it technically is. Mac Tonight's aimed to do the same thing, except they forgot the part where fixing something makes it temporarily unusable. While yes, the fixing beeps take a long time to finish, the moment you click the repair button, the problem is solved. So you can go to fix the heater, press the button, and immediately after use the heater to blow away the hungry bitch boy. Isn't that just awesome? The answer is yes, because without this gameplay flaw, this game would probably be impossible. Moving on to the Night 4 post-night cutscene, we hear Chris driving in his car. And it's during this scene my mind was fucking blown, because this story somehow begins to make even less sense. It's here where we learn that up until now, Chris hasn't even been a manager. He was just an employee, and the guy he killed was the manager. Before I continue talking about this, we need to pause and immediately go over another massive flaw in this game's story logic. So, in case you didn't know, managers aren't the ones who give you a fucking raise, you moron! There is quite literally nothing he could have done for you. It's not his decision to make. The way raises typically work is the manager will recommend an employee for a raise. It's then either up to HR, a committee, the owner, or even higher management to decide whether or not to give the raise. This fucking retard killed a guy for no fucking reason whatsoever. And the craziest part, now he's taking his place. And that's why we hear him on the phone calls. He's the fucking manager now. Want to hear some even more mindfuck? He states on the phone call that he's going over to the facility where the animatronics are being stored to go destroy them. If he's destroying them, why the fuck does he care about them so much in the phone call we receive on night 4? What the actual fuck is going on in this goddamn story? It makes no fucking sense. And guess what? It's still going to make even less sense once we start talking about the second game. So strap in, guys, because if you haven't gone brain dead yet, then you're going to later. Going into night 5, we receive one last phone call from Chris. He thanks us for protecting the animatronics, even though literally in the night previously, we got yelled at for letting them move. But fuck it, whatever. At the end of this phone call, something enters the office and ganks his ass.
You should wait. What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Get away from me, you piece of...
Oh shit. Not totally sure what it is, we're left to finish off the night, which, as I'm sure you could have guessed, adds nothing new. So we can move right on to the post-night cutscene. So, I need you guys to take a deep breath before we dive into this cutscene, because you're going to need to use your head a lot, and honestly, it may implode from stupidity. During this scene, we hear the voice of Chris's manager, so we know that this has to take place before he was killed. He mentions that the animatronics have been very damaged in the facility they were being held in. We know from the last call that Chris was going to destroy them, which is why he was driving. So we know that scene takes place before this one. However, that also means that during that scene, Chris's boss was still alive, which means he went to destroy the animatronics to piss his manager off and then killed him. Now, slow down. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do something like that if his final plan was to kill him? That wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't get the chance to be angry about it because he'd be dead right after. I should also mention that his manager mentions needing to check the cameras to see what damaged them. And from a very, very important detail we will learn in the second game, it makes the scene where his boss is killed even more confusing. But I'll talk about that later once we learn this very important detail. For now, let's just move on to night 6. Remember how I said the call we got from Chris on night 5 was the last? Well, guess what, shithead? I lied to you. That's right, never trust YouTubers, especially not FNAF ones. They're either liars or pedophiles. And seeing the types of people I'm up against, I'm really glad I got given the liar trait and not the other one. Anyways, yeah, we still do get a phone call from Chris this night, except this time it's revealed that he's turned into an animatronic. Woo! Spooky, bitch! For some reason, he wants to kill us. I don't know why. He says that he can't have any witnesses, but that brings up way more questions. One, is he implying that we saw him kill his manager? Because I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to follow the timeline would show we weren't even working here at that time, so that's not possible. Second, even if we did see it, you're dead and have been turned into an animatronic or something. So it's not like you can be held responsible for your actions anyways. Also, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Chris got killed by Mac in Night 5's phone call, as Chris is now a new threat in this night that will attack you. He's literally just Mac. He even looks like Mac. He attacks the doors, attacks the drive-thrus. Wahoo! Once you beat Night 6, you'll be thrown into a sort of free roam section, except not really, because it's a scripted scene where you walk up to Mac. He looks at you and the screen goes black, and then we get to talk about the post-night cutscene. This one takes place at who the fuck knows when. Chris is talking to his boss about getting a job watching over the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, the same place he later goes to destroy them. Okay, so we know this takes place before that, but can we pinpoint exactly when this takes place? The answer to that question is yes, and to answer it, we have to take a look at the second game. But before we hop over to that game, I have one more question to ask. What the fuck was the point of the character we played as during the night segments? We quite literally served no purpose. Apparently we were witnesses, but we never actually witnessed anything. At first I thought, maybe Chris is destroying the animatronics and then pretending in the phone calls to us it's something else doing it. But that wouldn't make sense because one, we're not in the facility where they're stored, we're in the McDonald's, and two, Chris killed his manager after he destroyed the robots. And we know that during the night sections his manager is already dead because Chris is the manager at that point. So what the fuck did we even do except just work at fucking McDonald's? I guess we got looked at by Mac at the end, but it seems like we were just utterly useless. Also, we were wearing a yellow glove, which would lead me to believe it was actually in the POV of fucking Ronald. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. But whatever, let's forget about this mess and just hope that Mactonites 2 is better than this one. Spoiler alert, it's a lot worse. Get a refill on snacks and drinks. Let's dive deeper down the shithole. When it comes to Five Nights at Mactonites 2, not only is it worse gameplay-wise, it's also worse story-wise, somehow. Let's start by getting one huge detail I noticed out of the way. On the title screen, you can see a list of credits, and if you look close enough, you can see that one of the people who helped work on this game was, Ivan G, aka the creator of my least favorite FNAF fan game series of all time, Jolly. If you'd like to hear me rant all about that game, you can do so after you finish this video, as I have an entire hour-long review of that game up on this channel. Also, I haven't done this at all in this video, so go subscribe to Dxtr Black, Dxtr Blue, Dxtr Gray, join the Discord server, and go check out the merch store as well. All links in the description. In Mactonites 2, we play as Chris, which would reveal that this game takes place both before the events of the first game and before Chris killed his manager. Loading into the first night, the phone call doesn't tell us a whole lot, basically what we already know. Chris took up the job to watch the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, but of course, we know he's just there to destroy them. Let's talk about our tools. This time around, we have two sets of cameras, one normal set and another set specifically for the vents. The only threat active on night 1 is Mac, who will walk through your cameras to try to get to your office. This time around, there are two entrances, that being two doors. Why? Because fuck you! What I really want to focus on was the biggest dick move I've ever seen a game pull before. Let's take a moment to tunnel vision on the only two cameras that matter in this game, Camera 2 and Camera 4. Both cameras are the cameras right next to your office doors, and through each you can remotely turn on a safety lock to keep the robots out. Each door has its own power supply. The problem? These power supplies drain fast as fuck. So much so that I was noticing on earlier nights that when Mac would appear on camera 4, that by the time he'd leave, I'd be left with a big chunk of power missing, which led me to believe that the remainder of the nights would be very difficult because no shit, he would be attacking more frequently. Something even cooler? Where does Mac go after camera 4? Camera 2. What's in camera 2? Another fucking entrance to the office. Holy shit, we have to waste even more power. Now pause. If you're familiar with this game, I can already tell you're going to the comments to explain to me how badly I'm not understanding how this mechanic works. And shut up. I know that's not exactly how it works. I like to explain based on my experience, and this is how it went. Turns out, this camera state is not Mac about to open the camera 4 door. He actually has two different phases on this camera, attack and no attack. When he's standing like this, away from the door, then you know he's just traveling to camera 2 to attack. He will look like this when it's actually him attacking camera 4's door. So what's the problem? Well, I literally never saw Mac go into his attack camera 4 state until night 3. Excuse me? I don't think that it's my fault for not noticing earlier when my RNG with movements is that dog shit. Holy fuck. But whatever. After learning that, I had no problems with Mac, and we're free to move on to the post-night 1 cutscene. Psych! Guess what? There aren't any. We're just jumping right into night 2. Night 2 drops a fucking bombshell on me and blows up all hope of understanding the lore of this game. It's revealed on this night that the phone guy isn't Chris's boss, as he mentions that the manager at a McDonald's had his throat slit, now establishing that Chris had already killed him. This doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off. And you'll understand why later when we talk about that very important detail I mentioned earlier, so just bear with me a bit longer. For now, let's go over this night's threats. This night introduces this game's Toy Freddy equivalent, the Hamburglar. And no, not because of his game mechanics, but because he's a fat ass. He is the character to introduce the vent mechanics, exactly how he does in the first game, except this time it's somehow even more worthless. Once he enters your vents, he will appear in any of the 4. When he does, all you have to do is seal the vent he is in until he leaves. Each vent has its own power supply, and these two drain very fast. But that doesn't matter because even during this game's most difficult canon night, you will hardly ever be attacked. The phone guy mentions that only one vent can be sealed at a time, but fun fact, that's actually just not fucking true at all because you can seal all of them at the same time if you really wanted to, so that's cool. Night 3 introduces one new threat, but before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the headache that is this night's phone call. During this call, the phone guy tells us that Mac's box was moved and looks like it had been opened. Of course, that makes sense because we watched him walk around the building. All good. Whatever. However, he also mentions the progress the police have made on the murder of Chris's manager. They found out he was a former employee and that he was spotted running out of the building wearing a mask and a McDonald's uniform. Pause, please. My brain can only take so much stupidity at a time. So, what this tells us is that at the time Chris killed his manager, he wasn't working at the McDonald's because they referred to him as a former employee. That doesn't make sense because during the Night 3 cutscene in the first game, when Chris enters his manager's office to kill him, his manager mentions that there's nothing he can do to help. So we know he was working there. Maybe that was a mistake and he wasn't working there, or maybe this is a mistake and they shouldn't have said former employee. But let's just say this game is correct and he was a former employee. Why the fuck was he wearing a McDonald's uniform if he didn't even work there? This story doesn't make any fucking sense and nothing lines up. No, this is not a case of the game being mysterious and, ooh, it's our job as theorist hunters to piece it together. Fuck you. This is just bad writing, like really fucking bad writing. We still haven't even gotten the real bombshell yet, the very important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. But before we can get to it, we have to talk about tonight's threat, Birdie. Birdie did something unique in the last game. What about this one? Nope, she's just a hamburglar. Enters vents, seal them, that's it. Moving on. Night 4 somehow manages to make even less sense than ever before. We're told that Birdie had gotten damaged, like a crowbar was smashed into her face. Okay, so we know that at this point, Chris had already begun breaking the animatronics. Cool. Now, here's the stupid part. We're told that the police are obviously still investigating the murder. They questioned all the current employees about the incident, and the phone guy tells us, no joke, that they put the employees who were suspects through a lie detector. Fuck the fact that lie detectors can be notoriously inaccurate. Let's talk about the fact that they know it's a former employee. Ding, 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 former. So why the fuck are the current employees suspects? That doesn't even make any fucking sense why they would suspect a current employee of being the murderer when they know it was a former employee. Sure, the guy was wearing a uniform, but they've already established that he was a former employee, aka not a fucking employee anymore. Am I overreacting? Does this story actually make perfect sense and I'm just retarded? I don't think it does. Anyways, the threat on this night is Mayor McCheese. He's just Mac. Goes to the door, close it, what the fuck ever. I know you guys are just interested in this story at this point and how retarded it is. Night 5 phone call. Let's go over it. Mayor McCheese was damaged, obviously our doing. We're told that today is our last night, yet for some reason we're told that we can come in tomorrow if we really want to. Why? I literally have no idea. And the phone guy literally offers no good explanation whatsoever. It's clear that at this point the phone guy thinks we're not doing our job well. And to be fair, we really aren't, so that makes sense. Really nothing important in this call, so let's just go over the final threat in this game, Grimace. Grimace, surprisingly, does something different than the other characters. He acts sort of like a phantom balloon bitch from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He will slowly leave his box, and when he does, he'll appear on a camera. If you see him, close the cameras and he'll reset to his box. If you don't do it fast enough, he'll force your cameras to reboot, which will take a while. So like, just close the cameras. Who gives a fuck? Let's just talk about this stupid fucking story and the stupid fucking important detail I've been teasing for the last half hour. During the Night 6 phone call, it's revealed that the phone guy checked the cameras of the warehouse and saw Chris breaking the animatronics, specifically Grimace. He tells us that we need to get out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know, no shit, he's pissed, and rightfully so. But hold up. Did you hear what I just said? He checked the cameras and saw us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, it does. Why, you ask? Well, this little tidbit is that super important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. Towards the end of Mac Tonight 1, during the final cutscene, we hear Chris's manager mentioning that the robots are being damaged and that he needs to check the cameras. This would tell me that this exact moment is what he was talking about then. But here's the crazy part. All of that would add up perfectly fine if it wasn't confirmed that the phone guy in the second game wasn't the fucking manager, because he said the manager was already dead. So who the fuck is this guy? And why did the manager say he needed to check the cameras of the warehouse at the end of the first game? This story literally makes no fucking sense whatsoever. There was no thought put into it. I can't piece any of it together because each piece of the fucking puzzle is from a different goddamn box. What the fuck do you expect from me, game? I finally get confident enough to talk about the stories of the games I play in my videos, and then I'm hit with this fucking bullshit. I've spent hours upon hours trying to figure this shit out to find out it's been completely fucking broken from the start. The gears in my brain are turning so fast, I think the whole engine altogether is gonna fucking explode. Thank God I got that out of my system. But that's all Five Nights with Mac Tonight's has to offer. Yes, by the way, before you say anything, I know that there is a third game, but fuck you. It's confirmed to not be canon, so I don't give a fuck about it. This series was an experience I would be okay with never going through again. It wasn't nearly as soul-sucking as Jolly, however, it was definitely enough to cut several years off my lifespan. From horrific gameplay to the worst story I've ever seen in my life, Mac Tonight's truly doesn't have it all. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Mac Tonight's is the greatest OG fan game of all time? Let me know in the comments below. In my Banshee video, I asked you guys what made you get into Five Nights at Freddy's, and my favorite answer was every comment mentioning Markiplier, because that was about 95% of the answers to that question. I should have really assumed that. Subscribe to the channels, I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!